Are you looking to do deals and master flipping houses? Welcome to the DoDeals Show with our host, Mr. Tim Mai. As a successful investor and mentor to many real estate investors, Tim's students consistently run 6- and 7-figure investing businesses. Each week, you'll hear from top real estate investors who share the best strategies, systems, and secrets that you can use to be more successful. Tim and his guests will pull back the curtain for you to learn their exact tactics, tricks, and tools that are working best right now in today's real estate market. Now, let's welcome Mr. Tim Mai.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. This is Tim Mai, and today on this interview, I have Peterson with me, good friend. Yay! Coy, we are live on Facebook right now, and I want to ask you this question to let everyone know. And before I ask you the question, I want to make sure people know who you are and a little bit about your background. Coy's a very successful real estate investor, started in 2005. In 2011, he started doing apartments. Owns 355 units right now. One of his very first deal that he did, where he bought, how much you bought it for, Coy?
$3.2 million.
$3.2 million. He's getting ready to sell it for $10 million. Like amazing returns, right? And so Coy, how do someone get into an apartment if they have no money or little money? Little resources, but they want, they know apartments the way to go. Apartments the way you can retire in real estate. How do someone get started in this?
Well, Tim, that first deal is a good example of you can retire on just one deal if done right? Mm-hmm. And, it's really my story. I started out with no money, no credit. I didn't have a big map. It wasn't an easy route, right? But it can absolutely be done. And all it takes is, is it easy? It's not, right? But you can absolutely get into an apartment deal without any of your money, right? And because you can go out and raise other people, right? OPM, other people's money. And, it starts with an idea first, right? I used to say, I wish I could own an apartment. And that's all it was. It was just a dream. One day, I asked myself, how can I own an apartment? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, the thing started taking stock. And I took stock and said, well, what do I have? And I knew I didn't have any money. I didn't have much credit, but I had a lot of time. And I had a lot of just grit. I was ready to go to work, right? And so I sought out mentors that taught me the business, right? And they kind of guided me and showed me the steps, right? And then all I did was I took massive action and did all the things that they told me to do. And guess what? I raised $1.4 million on that first deal.
Wow.
None of my money's in that deal.
Wow.
So it can absolutely be done, buddy.
Super inspiring. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So Facebook, make sure you keep an eye out for when we post the entire interview. Coy is a great guy to learn from, and he's launching a book as well. What's the name of the book, Coy?
It's Why the Rich Get Richer, The Secret to Private Placements.
All right, so make sure you keep an eye out for the launch in January coming up. Why the Rich Get Richer. So, all right, see you later, Facebook. Cool. All right, Coy, we're going to continue with the rest of our interview here. So, Coy, if you can share with us a little bit about how you got started in investing and then what made you get into multifamily?
Yeah. So, I'll give you my real quick synopsis of how I got started. I read that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, back in 2004, right? And it took me a whole year to get enough courage to start my own company, right? But I knew right then and there that real estate was the way to go. And so I launched my business in 2005 with no money, no credit. And, I took a home equity loan out of my personal home. That's how I got my first monies. And I started doing deals, right? And but the biggest difference for me is I found a lot of good mentors along the way that taught me initially the single family business, right? And that was really good. And actually, I moved to Arizona in 2006, almost the top of the market, Tim. And at that time, I was from Oklahoma, And so I had mainly just rental properties in Oklahoma. I never bought to fix or flip or do any of that stuff. And so when the market crashed, I didn't really get caught with a lot of inventory. In fact, all the properties that I had, I still own because I bought them based on cash flow, right? And so then in Phoenix, the market crashed down amazingly low, and everything was on sale. And I knew this was the time to really like push all in, and I did. And I learned how to raise private money. One of the coolest things that I've ever learned is the ability to raise other people's money, right? You can find deals. Everybody can find deals. It's a very learnable skill. But when you can find capital and have it deploy on your call, that, my friend, is a very powerful thing, right? And so once I learned how to raise capital, I became a master at raising money. And because of that, I started to be able to do, instead of just one deal at a time, I could do multiple deals at a time. And I started just doing, 8, 9 projects in a month. And I was going really fast. It was a lot of work, a lot of fun. This is like 08, 09, 010. And it was really, really good, Tim. It was really good. But so something happened, though, in 2011 is the market started getting tighter and tighter. It was harder to find deals. And the way that I was doing it in the old days was I was just getting on the MLS. And I started seeing a trend like, hey, someone's getting ready to move my cheese, and I better figure out my next move. Like, how am I going to stay in the game of real estate? And so it was at that time that I was driving past an apartment complex, and I did. I said, man, I wish I could own a complex. Like, how could I just cash flow every month, right? And so, but then, like, after driving past that stupid apartment complex, like 30,000 times, one day I changed my mindset, and I just said, well, how can I own an apartment complex? How could I do it? And so I put my mind to work and started solving the problem. And at that point, I was really good at raising capital for my single-family deals, and it actually just became a really nice transition. I started with single families and got really pretty good, at a very decent level with it. And it was just like the next tranche was to say, hey, let's go buy an apartment complex, right? And all we did is, I learned how to find a deal, analyze the deal, and make it make financial sense. And then all I did was just turn that around and made it into a pitchable event to my investor pool. And they said, great, yeah, that's good, because I said, hey, guys, it's getting harder and harder to find these deals on the single-family side, and you have to keep on giving me your money and giving me back your money, and you give me your money and give back me your money. I'm like, let's just do one deal. Let's hold it for 5 years or so, and let's make cash flow every month, in like rents. So that made all sense to my investors, and so the proof is in the pudding. That first deal, Tim, $3.2 million, and we're going to put it up for sale for 10, maybe 10.5 this summer. That's
phenomenal. Wow.
It's that one deal made me a multi-millionaire.
Right. That's the incredible story. We want all our deals to be like that, right?
Yes.
Now, I do know that there are deals that are bigger deals. There are deals that are smaller. A lot of people say, hey, when you first start out, start with the smaller apartments, like 20, 50 units, or even smaller, like under 50 units. What are so your first deal, how big is it? How many units is it?
144.
Wow, that's a huge first deal. So speak into that. Should someone start out with a smaller 6, 10, 20 unit, or start out with something bigger? And what's the pros and cons of that?
Believe it or not, it's easier to go bigger than smaller. That's just my personal opinion, right? Now, you can absolutely start. You got to start where you're comfortable at, right? So if you can't, in your mind, picture a bigger deal, then you're right. You'll never get the bigger deal, right? You'll chase a dream, right? You've really. I always say this: start where you feel the most comfortable, and sometimes it's just like get a duplex, right? Get a quad, right? Start where it makes the most sense for you, but you'll realize if you get good at raising capital, right? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I stress on is Well, the reason that the bigger deals seem unfathomable is because people are focusing on trying to find a deal. And I think I focus more on how to raise capital than the deal. Because you can find deals anywhere. So I'll give you an example, Tim. That first deal that I got, it's not because I found it, right? I didn't find the deal. I walked into a room where there was a bunch of multifamily guys in there, and I said, hey, listen, guys, I got a crap ton of cash that I need to spend. Is there any deals out there today?
Nice.
And so every deal found their way to me. And so then I was like, well, I don't like that one, and, this one. And I cherry-picked what I thought was the best deal. And I had leverage because I had all this capital behind me that I knew I could bring to the table, right? And so does that happen overnight? No, right? But it's absolutely, as you segue from, I think, single-family deals, right, and start building up capital, because usually if you're doing lots of single-family deals, once you graduate and become better, you're raising capital.
Right.
You have to be, right? And it could be lender capital, but a lot of times private capital, and then there just becomes a transition period, right? And so the bigger deals by far are easier to manage, right? Because I have all my stuff are on those on the East Coast, Tim. 144 units in South Carolina, 118 in Atlanta, and then this 93 unit deal in New Orleans, and they're all professionally managed. So I don't manage the properties, I just manage my management company. And we do that through weekly emails and complete financials at the end of the year, every month. So we look, we based on it, we look at the financials every month and say, okay, how's occupancy? How are we doing? But I don't worry about the day to day, ever.
Right.
In my opinion, investing should be like this. It should sound something like this: sunsets and palm trees, right? We get into this world. So my company's called Kahuna Investments because I want to be the big kahuna. And I wanted to have a lifestyle, brother. And I set it out from the very beginning that I want to make investing fun, but I also want it to give me the time. And this is the key piece: the time to do and be the kind of guy that I wanted to be. So I'm a full-time dad, right? I got 2 kids. I don't miss soccer. I don't miss sports. I do everything, my friend. And yet I've got this business that runs without me, man. That's the epitome, dude.
That's awesome. I love that. So let's look at, raising capital, right? How do you, so for example, let's take me. I have people who lend money to me for my single family homes deals. And most of the people I've dealt with so far, that's also where they're comfortable with is single family homes deals. So whenever I bring, whenever I talk to them about something outside of that, then a lot of times they're not comfortable with it. So, how do I make it attractive for them, or maybe there's a shift in my own mindset that has to happen.
Boom.
For that to happen.
That's it, dude. See, you just put limits on yourself, right? You're trying to make up your minds for your investors for them already, right? And I see lots of people do the same and make that same mistake is, well, my guys like this, like that. What they do, what your guys like, Tim, is they like you, right? And I find that no matter across the board. Now, there is still a certain amount of people that are like, hey, I only want to be in this box, and that's my box, right? And that's totally fine. But when you start learning how to you just present the opportunity. Mm-hmm. So, I'll give you a great example. So the first time I raised capital was totally by accident, right? I was playing racquetball with this guy, and my background, I used to be a financial advisor, so that's my background, right? And this guy used to be my client. So I kind of had a pretty good idea of the money he had, and the guy didn't have a lot of money, right? So I'm playing racquetball with him, and this is back in my single-family days, right? And I hadn't really figured out the secret of raising capital yet, right? So this is the secret. This is a big morsel here. So pay attention, everybody. he was my friend, and I would ask him because he was watching me wholesale deals, and I was only making a smidgen of the money, and my investors were making a big portion of it while I was wholesaling. And so I said, hey, Carl, he lived in a retirement community, by the way, right? So I knew he lived in a place where there was lots of capital and money, right?
Uh-huh.
So I asked him as a friend, and I said, hey, Carl, you know, I'm doing these wholesaling deals, and you know, I'm making this much money, and my investors are making this much money, and what I want to do is, like, if you know anybody in that retirement community, I could probably pay a good amount of money in interest, like 12%, right? That's what the number that I told him at the time. It'd secure it with a note deed of trust. And I asked him, like, do you know anybody in that area? And I just kind of gave him the breakdown. He's like, well, I'll go check. I'll look, right? So I left it at that, saying, oh gosh, well that's, you know, let's hope, pray. Well, Carl calls me the next day. He goes, Corey, are you still wanting to do that money deal? And I said, like, man, Carl found somebody. He goes, Corey, you don't know this, but my home is free and clear. And if you pay me 12% and I can borrow the money at 3%, I can make the spread.
Yeah.
He's like, well, how much do you need? And I go, Carl, I need $85,000, right? He goes, yeah, no problem. Where do you want me to send it?
Nice.
And I'm like, I haven't got that far in my mind. I'm like, I'll have to get back with you back on that, Carl. But so what I learned from that, Tim, is you never ask people for money, right? You ask them, who do they know, right? It's who do they know. And so when you're presenting a lot of times to the new idea, it's not saying, hey, I got this deal, I want your money. It's, hey, listen, I really respect you. You know, you've given me money before. I've got this new opportunity in apartments. And I think, you know, I want to share it, you know, run it by with you because I think you know the kind of people that would be interested in it. And here's what, and then you just go through it. But the reason is now you're asking them for your help. Hey, I want you to I really want you to look at this for me and give me your advice on what you know, tell me if it makes sense to you. Well, now they're critically looking at your presentation and thinking, oh, he's trying to sell me something. You've taken that off the table. You're like, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm really looking for your advice on my presentation to see if it makes sense because I want one of your friends. I want you to feel comfortable. Well, what happens is people self-select all the time, right? They go through that whole deal. They're like, well, hey, Tim, I think I might be interested. You know, and that's what happens.
I like
so,
that.
You know Jack Bosch, right?
Yes,
So me and Jack did the same type of deal, and a lot of times you can borrow someone else's credibility, right? So Jack, you know, has a lot of friends, a lot of influence, but he's never raised private capital ever, right? And so, but he trusted me, and he just followed my steps. And he borrowed some of my credibility, right? And we put together a nice packet together, and we both raised $700. He raised $700,000. I raised $700,000, and that's, you know, that was another way. He borrowed my credibility, and because I'd done it, but people respected him.
Right.
And so those deals happen all the time, just like that.
I love that. That's awesome. Okay, so my takeaway is number one, you know, yeah, always. Don't ask for money. Just ask them, who they might know, right?
Yes.
And then number two that you mentioned real quick, but it's about like always presenting opportunities to people and not, you know, like not, you know, having your own limiting, you know, self beliefs and not even presenting the offer or the opportunity out there. So just put the opportunity out there for people and let them say yes or no to it or refer you someone.
Yes. You know, here's what I'm doing. You know, I partner with this other person, or you know, I've went to the, you know, whatever it is. If it was your first deal, you're doing it all on your own, right? That's it. You know, but show them all the things you've done, and then ask them like, hey, I really respect you, and I need your feedback, and you just keep telling that story, and then you'll get enough people saying, hey, I'm interested, right? And then and that's how it happens.
All right. So my next question for you is looking at like your tips on, let's say we have three types of investors. One is newbie, never done a deal, not a single family home deals or anything like that. What is your, what's the best way for them to get into apartments? Okay. Number two is someone who've done some single family homes and now they want to get into apartments. All right. And then number three is someone who's super experienced. He's a superstar in single family homes. So are your advices for them different, and how are they different? So if you can speak into that.
Yeah. So the first guy, never done a deal, never started, right?
Yeah.
Now it's a long road, right? I didn't start that way, so I would say I've seen people do it, right? It takes an extreme amount of focus, right? I always say, now is it a good place to start with multifamilies? It can be, but you got to really look at your resources, right? Who do you know? And you got to leverage. You got to leverage a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And here's the biggest thing for newbies. And I see this all the time because they call me, Corey, I got this deal. I got this deal. I got this deal. They bring me deals, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they're really not deals. They get so excited. But the biggest problem, Tim, is they want all the deal, right? And I was saying when I first started, I was willing to take like that much of a deal, right? I just wanted to be in a deal.
Mm-hmm, right.
And I was willing to let someone else that was more experienced than me make most of the money so I could learn. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes a lot of new people make is they're not willing to give up.
Right.
Right? And it's really not giving up. It's you're learning so much. It's like invaluable. Right?
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of like whenever I watch Shark Tanks and the people give away tons of equity to the sharks. I'm like, wow. But it is. I mean, it's an amazing things to be connected with and learn from. And so, yeah, I get it.
So when you're first starting, I always say you got to be willing. If you're never done a deal, never done this, right? Now you can learn. Now you can. We're getting ready to start an info course on that. We'll teach you, right, all of the steps. But I would say it's a lot easier to find someone that's already been there and just help them, right? Figure out a way to partner with somebody. That's personally my default when I'm learning something new, right? I'll give you an example. I'm starting an info biz. I've never done an info biz, right? Uh-huh. It would make more sense for me to say, hey, Tim, let's partner up on a deal. Let me give you some equity on what I want to do and because you've already done it, right?
Right.
Same thing with Jack Bosch. I was like, Jack, it's much more easier for me to give away. So my learning curve is so much faster. Like, I don't want to make all the mistakes you've made.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so to me, I'm absolutely willing to give a lot up because I know that it'll help me in the long run.
Right.
Right? So that's that first guy. Now, you can still do it. You just have to be very focused, and you have to have the tenacity to go through each step and learn it, right? And then take massive action. The second guy is the guy that's been doing some deals, right? Mm-hmm. That's actually a good person, right? I mean, once you've been through the ring a little bit and you know some real estate, you understand it, and maybe you've been doing some single-family deals, right? That's a really good place to jump in, right? I like that. That's the kind of people I want to teach, right? Mm-hmm. That guy and honestly the very successful single-family guy, because they all have the same problem, is that they have been conditioned, because we all read that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it was about cash flow. That's what he talked about.
Right.
And somehow we changed that meaning to flipping, right? And we've got used to those big, quick paychecks. But the problem is we're never really an investor, Tim, right? We're just traders.
Right.
Right? And we're trading and flipping properties, and it's the worst income bracket. Right? The more you make, the more you get taxed.
Right.
No fun. When you switch to the investing side and become a true legit investor in multifamilies, you get all the benefits of that, of being a longer-term buy and hold investor, right? You get taxed at a better tax rate. There's just so many other things to go that give you a lot of momentum, right? And so that middle guy that's just starting out, that's done some deals, I still think it's the same advice is you'll be able to learn the stuff faster, right? And get a deal. You can find a deal, and maybe it's a smaller deal, Tim. Maybe it's that duplex quad, 20-unit deal. But you still got to do a lot of the work yourself, right, on those deals. And that's just never been my goal. I would much rather spend more time getting good at raising private capital and then segue into a multifamily deal, into a bigger multifamily deal. But that's just my personal preference. Mm-hmm. But I've seen lots of guys that do, stack 4 or 5 different quads, and now all of a sudden they've got 30 quads, and that's a good problem, mm-hmm. right? And you're getting cash flow along the way, so that makes a lot of sense. So you can go the smaller route, right? It's not a bad deal. The only thing is, I still will tell you, pay the money to have everything professionally managed. If you've got quads or even a 20-unit deal, find a seasoned real estate leasing, management company, mm-hmm. and pay them to do everything, right? Do not self-manage, and especially in the beginning. You will burn out and you will suck at it, right? You can get good at a couple things. I'm not good at management. I suck at it, right? I'm only good at a couple things. I can find deals and I can raise capital. That's my 2 levers that I have. Everything else I sub out. And I sub out to people that are way better than I am, right? So that's kind of the middle guy. I would say you start somewhere, but start moving towards that apartment deal, right? Even if it's quads. Get used to the terminology, right? It's just a little bit different language.
Yeah.
So the third guy, the guy that's uber successful doing single-family homes, this guy's a dream to work with because he already knows the concepts. He's already got leverage. This is like someone like you that's been there, done that, right? But now you're saying, well, how could I own one deal and make $7 million, right? And cash flow. I'm not even talking about the cash flow, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, that one deal is making like $350 net profit every year, dude.
Wow.
I mean,
that's amazing.
So, but we're gonna sell it and make a big windfall. So people like you and the seasoned guys, it's really just more of changing their ideals and their beliefs, right? Is to show them what is possible, because a lot of times they already have lots of connections for money. They understand the real estate game. Teaching them how to find a deal is pretty simple. The biggest challenge is trying to change. Again, it's always some money, right? Mm-hmm. And I always say the money is not always in real estate. The money is in the money, right? Okay. Get good, because it's very teachable skill to, like, I could show you right now, hey, Tim, pull up this area. Here's how we're going to go find apartment deals, right? And then you do your analysis, right? That's a very teachable, very systematic way to find deals, mm-hmm. right? Through apartments. And apartments are all done by the numbers, right? It's not about, like, what do we think the market value is. It's all based on income.
Right.
Right? So it's very easy to determine valuations by looking at real numbers, right? But, again, the other piece of that always seems to be the money side. I think that's what seasoned guys is just saying, hey, Corey, how do I unlock my capital? How do I make the switch to get them to say, this might be a good deal, right? Mm-hmm. Because what I've learned is this. Everybody loves mailbox money.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? And so I always look at an older demo, like when I'm raising capital, I try to raise it through very busy people, wealthy people that are like doctors, dentists, lawyers, hardworking guys that are working, and they have no time to, like, invest. They all want to do real estate, mm-hmm. by the way, but they don't have the time, right? We've spent a lot of man hours learning our craft, right? And so those people, to me, are really good people to have because they just want a little bit better yield, but they want consistent cash flow. And then the retired people. Retired people, I love them because what they're wanting is checks in the mailbox. And there's nothing that pays checks like my apartments, right? So my apartments, most deals that I have, they pay every quarter to my investor pool. And it's usually between a 6 and an 8% preferred return. So that's huge for people. So like if they gave me $100,000, Tim, they would make $2,000 every quarter in their mailbox. And that, my friend, once you start getting some people doing that and they start making those returns, you raise a group of people one time, and they will lead you to all the money you need thereafter. Right? There's a secret to that. Once you start giving them their checks, then you invite them to dinner, and you pay, right? And you make sure they bring 2 friends, right? And then, you just say, hey, this is, they introduce you, and then you just shut up. They do all the talking for you. They'll sell your next deal.
That's awesome.
Right?
I love that.
And that's how you raise capital. I mean, that's the capital raising game. And that's what allows you to do bigger deals and make lots more money. I never would have thought, Tim, that my first deal would make me a multi-millionaire. But
right.
it's true because on paper, I'm worth more. I mean, I've been doing single family homes for a long time, but my net worth was never huge, right? I mean, I had lots of income, but my net worth was not like amazing.
Right.
When I bought my first apartment complex, after my second or third year, I mean, my net worth, when we started raising the value of that property, I mean, it's a cool thing, man.
That's awesome. So let me ask you this. So one of my other sort of fear in getting into apartments is the complication of it. I feel like, gosh, it's bigger deals, more complicated, more things I have to, worry about, manage, all of that stuff. Versus the single family home stuff is pretty simple, right? Like monkey can do it, right? So
right.
So could you speak into that? Are these deals more complicated, and how do you, be able to do these bigger deals and still have, the same lifestyle that you still have?
So in this business, I think you sprint and you marathon, right? So you sprint. Let's say I'm looking for a deal and I get a deal under contract, right? Mm-hmm. Now I'm in sprint mode, right? Because usually, it takes on average 3 to 4 months to close an apartment deal, right? Now, you're buying properties based on numbers, right? So the seller gave you a set of numbers and said, here's my numbers, right? Mm-hmm. And then if you go to my course or any course, right, they'll teach you a good rules of thumb for the numbers that you should be using, right? And you want to be, and this is the most important, you want to be very conservative in your underwriting process, right? Mm. And that's just taking there's a certain amount of money, and it's always done per door. It's a very simple formula, right? And so all these things are kind of come into play, and that gives you an overall, is this a deal or not a deal? Mm-hmm. And then from there on out, your only goal, like when you're doing my due diligence, so I got a property under contract. Now we're going to do what's called due diligence. We're going to basically verify the numbers, right? So again, I don't do this. I just hire somebody, right? Now owners lie all the time, right? That's a fact, right? So our job is to figure out where they're lying, right? And how much they're lying by, right? And then we'll come back and it's called retrade or renegotiate the deal based on our due diligence, right? But to answer your question, Tim, it's just different. Like, I don't spend, if you ask Jack about the 93 unit apartment deal that we just bought, mm-hmm. Jack has about that much time involved in it, but but the truth is, we looked at the deal, the numbers made sense. We did a site visit, so we flew to the property. We did our initial let's go look at the units, let's look inside, let's see what this makes sense. How much work do they really need per door, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at each. You look at a sample of 15, and they're pretty much all the same throughout, right? So okay, we got our good mix. Then we went and looked at some of the comps that we pulled up, right? The other apartments, our competition, right? And we looked to see what they were doing. And so then when we kind of get a good feel of like, okay, this deal was probably going to make sense. From there, all we did was we negotiated the price that we needed to buy it at. Once you do that, then you send your team, you do due diligence, right? I pay for that. I pay for a crew to come out, and they do detailed inspections. They check the wiring, the electrical, the roofs, the financials. So there's a physical due diligence, and then there's a financial due diligence, right? We third-party this out. And they come back at the end, they give me a big report, and they say, Corey, based on our findings, this true, and this, and we start coming like the biggest thing is our CapEx, or our capital improvement budget.
Mm-hmm.
That usually gets determined by that report. Like, we thought it was going to be $200,000 to fix it up, and now it's $400,000, right? Mm-hmm. And let's say it's a lot more now. Let's say it was 600, like more than we really thought. Like they were hiding, they were lying, they hid something from us. So then we would take all that information, because we'd had inspectors come and verify all this. We would bring it back to the owner and say, hey, listen, you got this, this, and this. We need a price reduction. And so we get all that stuff done. Once we kind of get all that done, now we're ready to buy the property. Okay, so we've done our inspection. So now we know it's a deal based on we're buying it for this. We think we can improve it to this. And based on the competition, we should be able to get the same rents as our competition that look a certain style. Mm-hmm. That's just the way the business works. And then from there, we raise the capital, we buy the deal, and then your management company goes in there and interviews everybody. Like the short version is you hire people to do all this stuff for you, Tim. I mean, so for me personally, I didn't go to New Orleans the first time. I got my management company go there, mm-hmm. right? I only went there on the second time, the second visit, so we went 2 visits. The first one, he said, yeah, it's good. The second one, I was like, hey, I want to go take a look at it as well. So then when they did the inspection, I didn't even show up. I hired them. They went and did it. They gave me the reports. I'm like, all right, understand it. Then I raised the capital. I've not even been to the property since.
That's awesome.
Like, I own it, and I've not even been there. We've been operating it for a month and a half, 2 months.
Right. That's awesome. I love that. Yeah. So the mindset shift there for me is don't think of it as being more complicated or more difficult or even bigger. Just think of it as different.
It's just different.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Because I sprinted, and then once I get that deal closed, because the sprint is the raising capital. Honestly, you're going to raise capital, and you have to raise capital in a fairly short time period, right? So it's better to start raising capital early and letting people know this is what you're doing. So you get a lot of hands raised up in the air saying, hey, I want to do, next time you got a deal, Tim, I want to be in.
Right.
Right? And that makes it a lot easier than when you sprint, raise your capital, get the deal done and closed, and then I marathon. Meaning I let my management company do most of the heavy work, and I just look at the weekly reports and the monthly reports. And I mean, looking at a report takes you about, 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. My time. On the weekly reports, it's like 5-minute look. Yep, there's our numbers. Done. All right, looks good. Move on.
Right. I like that. I like that a lot. All right,
That's
buddy.
a wonderful style, buddy.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for for everything you've shared so far. Very good stuff. I've learned a ton, and yeah, I love how you break it down pretty simple, and yeah, make it very doable. So thank you so much for that.
Roll, brother.
Yeah. So Coy, we're gonna wrap this up now. I'm sure that the listeners are in love with you by now. Where do you want to send them if they if they want to reach out to you, if they have deals, they have money they want to invest with you? Where do you want to send them, buddy?
So go to kahunawealthbuilders.com. That's my website. You can download I've got a quick start program workshop goes through my whole process, right? And it's a good way to get connected. And then we're coming out with a podcast in January called the Multifamily Investing or Multifamily Apartments Investing Podcast, right? But it's just me telling the stories and giving you like a lot of those little clues, dude, right? And from there, that's where you start. You start with changing your mindset and saying, "How can I?" instead of "I wish."
That's awesome. I love that. Thank you so much for that. Now, one last question for you. So, to me, all entrepreneurs are heroes. Do you see yourself as a hero?
Brother, I see myself as a guy that just puts on his shoes every day and he goes to work. What a life. I can only tell you what a life. I started with a dream, my friend, and all I did is I kept watering that deal. I used to not, I was so fearful when I took that leap, right? Everybody does. The entrepreneurship leap of there's no guarantee. But I'm telling you, it is the best. It's the best thing you can ever give yourself is that gift of believing in yourself, taking the steps to get yourself into the position to make a lot of great things happen. And that's honestly all I've done is I'm just an ordinary dude, bro, right? I just wanted to live. I wanted a lifestyle. I wanted to make money. I want to be wealthy. I want to have the two things I think, Tim, only most people wish they could have, which is time and money.
Perfect.
And that's the Kahuna lifestyle, brother.
Perfect.
Time and money. Sunsets and palm trees.
Sunset and palm trees it is. Thank you so much, Coy. Amazing interview. Thank you for all that you shared. I look forward to, interview you furthermore in the future as we get, further into this topic. Thank you so much for, taking on mentoring others to do this and starting your podcast, your book, your coaching program that you're going to be coming out with. Dude, you're going to make a difference for a lot of people. You're going to make a lot of people rich. And so I love that.
That's the goal.
Yes, I love that. I love that you're doing that. So with that, everyone, thank you so much for watching and listening to this interview, and we'll see you on the next interview. All right, bye-bye.
Rock and roll, bro.
And that's our show for today. If you have any questions or would like to get further training from Tim Mai, please visit our website at www.dodeals.com/Tim.